Bloodborne was my first Soulsborne game, and I fell into the rabbit hole of FromSoft games very quickly. I enjoyed the combat, the movement, and the boss fights even though I died so many times. My immediate comment about my experience was something along the lines of, yeah, this feels like a great piloting game, which got me weird looks from my friends, and at that point I had conveniently forgotten that the developer that was responsible for Bloodborne and that crazy old robot game I played a number of years prior were the same guys. When I realized this, it all started making sense. Much of the old DNA from the Armored Core series leaks out here and there in the Soulsborne franchise, specifically for combat. Armored Core, with its last installment dating about 10 years back, has a lot of questions about what's changed, how the Souls franchise has influenced the mechanics, and for a good amount of people out there, Armored what? To briefly answer that question, it's a game where you customize and pilot a giant robot which you play through a set of missions. It's fairly old school as a formula and does make us ask the question, does a game like this have a place in today's gaming scene? Do we really want a game where you spend maybe half an hour figuring out which parts go where, seeing how to make the numbers on the stats go as high as you possibly can, only to bring it out to a 5-minute mission where you potentially crash and burn, and then proceed to stubbornly fight on until you either give up or go back to the drawing board, or you emerge victorious from a seemingly impossible boss fight? Well, some might not find that as an appealing prospect, but for a fan of the series such as myself, I've been waiting for this. Let's talk about the production, how it looks and sounds. While it would be easy to say that this is the most likely just the same engine in Elden Ring being put to use, I'd have to say that this is the farthest thing from the whole copy-paste treatment which we've come to expect from engine reuse. It is of the post-apocalyptic genre, yes, but it's in a totally different setting: abandoned cities, bases, towering metal structures, scaffoldings, and well, giant robots. One other thing also stood out: the stable performance. I reviewed the game on the PlayStation 5 and was enjoying a stable frame rate, though I had of course set the game to frame rate priority. News elsewhere does say the game can easily reach 120 or even 240 frames on the right hardware. Pretty amazing on the performance end, honestly. Though some might argue that this is due to the game being developed to be able to run on previous generation consoles, which would be the likes of the PlayStation 4. I am inclined to agree, where since they tried to make the game completely viable for older hardware, it's easily going to perform well on beefier, more updated hardware, though again, Elden Ring was proof that this isn't necessarily the case. And when you look at it under a microscope, yeah, Armored Core 6 actually doesn't look all that detailed. The models or textures aren't really all that complex. The lack of anything organic within the world makes it easy to animate things as blocky, hulking machines that they are. The effects can be picked apart to be quite simple. In fact, some bullets aren't even 3D objects. But is that really a bad thing? I mean, look at older animation reels. I think it's a fair comparison considering a lot of people pay attention to what they see. We know we like to meme on exaggerated frames and what simply looks like bad drawings on screenshots, but that's not how animation works. The reason things can be so deformed or distorted would be to give it more expressive movement. It just looks better when it's moving. You see this in Guilty Gear and Naruto, and it all comes together. Some things just look better rather than still frames from a screenshot. I'd say the same for the newest entry for the Armored Core series. Ideally, they don't really animate all that well since they're all just robots, and the effects don't look all that interesting. At the end of the day, most of these are projectiles and explosions of varying colors and sizes. But when you're in there and desperately trying to fight for victory, not only do they do the job, but they fit the moment to a T. You know it's time to dodge, you know when you have a lock on, and you always know if you're looking at an enemy. This is great art direction, as what they make you focus on is making sure you shoot down the enemy before they do the same to you. If I had any qualms about the way the game looked, it might be the interface itself. Sure, it's nice and minimal, but it was particularly hard to keep track of missiles that flew out of my view range. I just had to guess the timing of how to dodge it. The directional alerts were generally inaccurate as well. Maybe it was intended to keep you alert and desperately looking for enemies for whatever the system is trying to alert you about, it wasn't too bad. It was okay. But I really do wish they had a better indicator for attacks incoming from like blind spots. One thing that truly impressed me was the environment, particularly the vistas that you got to see while going through missions does set the tone and the setting much better. I know a lot of players won't notice these gorgeous backgrounds far into the distance, but for me, I loved it. The audio they mentioned is also something I hold in high regard for Armored Core 6. You'll basically get all your exposition from dialogue and voice lines from many characters you get to witness. But the sounds of every weapon you and every mech fires also have a unique profile to them. You can tell if it's a rifle, a machine gun, a laser cannon, or a bunch of missiles that was just shot. In this sense, you kind of have an alternate radar you can use if you're using good enough headphones. Maybe it can do a little better by having impact sounds to figure out if something was evaded or hit, though there's already a decent visual feedback for that. Then there's the music. Oh, the music. Last time I got this happy about music would be like Ace Combat 7, which oddly enough has the same initials. The thematic scoring isn't as consistent as Ace Combat, which is a bit of a letdown. Now, From Software isn't really a big fan of this whole everything ties down to the same melody kind of deal. Music for certain missions and boss fights are very memorable to the point that I would like to have the OST of Armored Core 6 at the nearest opportunity. Armored Core doesn't really bring something all that new to the table. Post-apocalyptic wars fought with giant robots almost sounds like a Warhammer campaign. But it does seem to know just how much is needed to make something feel significant but not distracting from the core experience. And its demonstration of their disciplined use of what they have makes the experience not only easy to digest, but memorable. Now for how the game plays, which is the mechanics. This robot piloting game comes at you with 4 different attack buttons for the corresponding weapon slots you can make use of. Movement is also pretty traditional, save for how you can fly, making the field of movement completely 3D when it comes to approaching enemies and avoiding attacks. So, when in actual combat, you're going to be asked to find and shoot targets. Doable. Manage your reloads. Easy. Watch cooldowns? No problem. Dodge enemy fire? Sure. Manage your energy bar, just like the other games, right? And finally, maintain a position where you're not exposing yourself to every gun-toting, missile-launching, laser blade-swinging baddie that's after you. Should be doable. The thing is, all of this is something you do all at the same time, or maybe in rapid succession over 5 to 10 second intervals. The tasks themselves are pretty simple on paper, at least as individual actions, but deciding what's more important to your brain is going to be challenging as you have to decide every other second what is more important. You can move quickly and rush down enemies, yes, no problem, but the actual problem is that everybody else can do the exact same thing. One particular change that I think really sticks out from every other Armored Core is how good the melee attacks work now. It has good movement and tracking and can actually be a reliable part of anybody's arsenal. It helps a lot that melee attacks not only offer a lot of damage, but build up stagger a lot as well. That's right, a stagger bar, much like Sekiro, where filling it will leave one vulnerable to direct hits, which deals bonus damage. This new mechanic influences how one may want to play, rewarding constant aggression and discouraging turtling up. The other half of the action isn't exactly action-packed. You are asked to take off the pilot suit and don on the lab coat. It's time to design your mech. If you're the type of guy that likes to min-max their builds, oh boy, you are in for a ride. There are many parts to work with, many more parts to find, and a lot of tweaking to do if you're up for it. You see, they've set up the system such that you can only choose 2 of 3 things. You can build fast, strong, or tough. You can't carry heavier weapons with a lighter frame, and you lose a lot of mobility when carrying beefier armor. It's an interesting point where you have to make a choice on what to commit to, but it's possible to try to reach a balance between the 3. In fact, I've built a balanced mech where I use it for general purpose on missions, though it actually lacks any real explosive firepower. For that, I have an alternate PvP arena build that is built around the Zimmerman shotgun, because Zimmerman is the strongest. Zimmerman will not lose to anyone. Zimmerman, my beloved. And finally, I have a tank build that's meant to go in and brute force the game when I've had enough of a certain boss. Cool part about Explore the Assembly is when you get down to more specific details of every part you put into your build. Some engines will perform better for energy weapons, some chip helps you lock on is actually better suited for sniping, Certain boosters make you dash faster when doing melee attacks, all sorts of interesting stats for fine-tuning builds when you've decided on a strategy or what you want to do. This whole tiered system of figuring out your stats serves those who are new to the game very well, where they can mainly just pay attention to the main stats that each part provides. But if you're the type that wants to get the absolutely best performance for what you want to do, you get to find out what suits your needs best by opening up the comprehensive set of stats for the part you're considering. And you even get to see how it affects every numerical value for your robot. And in Armored Core, every part affecting the performance of the entire assembly, well, that's a core to the experience. Now for what content Armored Core 6 offers us. Armored Core 6 is played out through a set of preset missions, which is a complete 180 from the usual open world approach that we see from most AAA offerings these days. It also means you get into the action very quickly. It can feel like this game is sort of on rails because of the direct nature of the objectives, though there are side objectives you can go after and search for. You don't have to go too far to find these combat logs or hidden chests either, though maybe a few of them aren't as easy to find. The missions themselves are very fun. The first few ones are more interested in teaching you how to play or how certain enemies work, and then you get to the end boss of Chapter 1, who is much like the Sekiro ones, is a teacher who is going to check if you have indeed learned how to play Armored Core. You can get away with your strategy and bide your time, but when it comes to this boss, it comes with its own rules. This is where you start feeling the Dark Souls game design experience kick itself into high gear. These will be the rage-inducing, controller-breaking fights that From Software has become known for. But learning how to play these fights correctly will not only make your experience rewarding, but make it much easier to do in future runs. Speaking of runs, Armored Core 6 is built around being played repeatedly like Nier Automata, where New Game Plus and New Game Double Plus are automatically started right after finishing a run through the game. You are meant to collect all endings on one save file, and you can only have one save file. So be careful about starting a completely new game because that would erase all of your progress, and that's gonna be a bad day. And again, like Nier, playing through NG Plus offers some slightly different content as you progress. It could be alternate mission paths, objectives, or little surprises during encounters you were originally very familiar with. Your first run will let you about 10 to 20 hours depending on how much you're willing to grind, and succeeding runs will go much quicker since you will mostly skip through cutscenes and you're past the learning phase, letting you breeze through previous encounters with your now much improved AC, along with your informed knowledge about how the fights you're about to face will work. And you might think some of the missions would feel repetitive, especially as you play through them in New Game Plus, and for those who think that, you have no idea how fun a 3-minute run of a mission of taking down a novice pilot could be. Okay, honestly though, getting past the first chapter, there's a total of 5 chapters by the way. Missions give you enough variety to keep the experiences fresh and fun. Some of them are straight up challenges, or the traditional destroy a bunch of enemies and then eventually a boss approaches. Others feel like they're tributes to some very special moments and stories that are popular in the mecha genre. And there's no way I'm not playing those again with some special music playing in the background, or even with a customized mech that suits the scene a lot better. The missions you play through have a very direct intent to deliver a specific type of experience, and getting the open world design away from Armored Core 6 lets the developers be laser focused on making sure those experiences come across as pure and potent as possible. Okay, now for the features, and this is the time where I actually complained about something in Armored Core 6. Restricted online play. This means those who can play together online will be limited to their native proprietary online ecosystems. In other words, those on PlayStation can only play with other people on PlayStation. Same for Xbox, same for PC or Steam. I mean, I get the problem if my cross-play experience with Tekken 8's network test was any indication, but I was hoping that at the very least, we could share AC designs and decals and emblems across platforms. It's not online play, and I hope that From Software can figure out a way to get that done, because I'm just so jealous of some of the designs I see for the PC players out there. You see, in the assembly of your mech, you can not only optimize your build for the strategy you have in mind, but you can also customize how it looks. And you better believe I spent a certain number of hours just trying to get our very own Rimuru Files logo made in the game. And I also spent additional hours making a custom paint job to match. And well, I showed the design to Chad and he immediately struck me down for branding violations on the robot. But that's beside the point. I didn't stop there. I also made other builds that would be my version of Char Zaku and even the Zazabi, and there's even a few more that I'm not quite sure what to call yet, because if you saw those legs, you knew what they were for. Those who have built model kits before must know the sheer joy of being able to place decals perfectly on your giant robot. You can make something cool or even something very funny and share it if you like. I mean, someone made their version of Mega's XLR with a red car on top and even the flaming decals on the arms and legs. And you better believe I downloaded the design data for that. And of course, this game has a photo mode. Yes, you're going to want to record the very moment you take down some big baddie or just bask in the glory of your metallic child in the hangar. The weathering you get from the fights too, it's almost wallpaper material every time. This returns me to my point. From Software, please make a way to make crossplay work, even if it's just sharing AC data and decals. Please. Alright, now to wrap it all up. Suffice to say, I've been waiting for this game. I'm sure this isn't going to be a game for everyone, and thank goodness From Software has stuck to its guns. Thank goodness there's a studio out there that can't be swayed by trends in the scene. Armored Core can easily have been translated to a live service type game with gacha mechanics that not even Japanese developers shy away from. But Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon stays the path, calm, cold, and collected, making sure that it keeps to the roots of what the game is about and makes itself so that it can stand up to the legacy of the series. The fast-paced combat, the possibilities within the customization of builds, and the absolutely fun missions all line up cleanly to deliver you to the firing line of fun as quickly as they can. The innovations it has integrated itself from newer games, as well as the refined combat mechanics that they have developed through the years with the Soulsborne series show here. And they were able to build it into Armored Core 6 without diluting the intended gameplay experience that many fans have come to know and love. This title may yet again be another torch being lit that signals a new era of games to be made. Will it mean the return to the mecha genre after many had turned away from it during the PlayStation 2 age? Will it encourage the creation of more high-profile single-player games that don't try to be the next game meant for you to play for an unforeseen amount of time? For both counts, I do hope so. To From Software, it was worth the wait. Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon is a fine-tuned, fully functional, and fundamentally fun game, scoring a 4.5 out of 5. Available on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Alright guys, that's the Armored Core 6 review. I have enjoyed this game so much, and I'm so happy that once you finish it, you can move on from it, and we are going to do the same. We are reviewing more games. We're also covering Tokyo Game Show. I'm not sure when this video is coming out, but a lot of fun, a lot of stuff happening, and I do look forward to seeing you guys again. Till next time.